You've been there, right? You're in that high-stakes room presenting the case for your big AI initiative. The numbers are up on the screen, your pilot results are absolutely glowing, but you can just feel the skepticism in the air. You need that investment, but what you've got isn't a case leadership can actually act on. So how do you turn that skepticism into a signature? Well, that's exactly what we're breaking down today.
And boom, that's the moment of truth. That challenge from your CFO, the person who has to defend every single dollar of investment. They're not saying no. What they're saying is, give me a business case, not just a cool science project. And honestly, this single sentence is where most AI initiatives just stall. They go from being a promising pilot to a footnote in a report.
All right, let's make this real. Let's talk about James. He's a head of operations at a mid-sized manufacturing company. For the last 8 months, he's been running these amazing pilots with AI tools on 3 key workflows: production scheduling, supplier quality reporting, and customer complaint triage. And the results? They were fantastic. I mean, complaint processing is 40% faster. Scheduling errors that used to cost the business thousands, they're down by 2/3. But when he asks for the budget to scale, he hits a total brick wall. And the reason why is something many of us have run into.
See, James's problem isn't unique. Not at all. He has the results, but what he doesn't have is the case. And that gap, that chasm between promising data and a rock-solid business case, that's where most initiatives fall apart. His case is collapsing for the exact same reasons most do.
It's such a crucial question, because they don't fail because the AI is bad, and they definitely don't fail because the idea is wrong. They fail because the business case itself has these fundamental flaws that any experienced leader can spot from a mile away.
Let's break these down, because they're huge. First, they measure activity. Saying you saved 40 hours a week sounds great, right? But if that time just gets soaked up by other low-value work, did you actually create any value? Or did you just shuffle the busy work around? Second, they act like AI is a light switch, like you can just flip it on and displace the old workflow. The reality is a messy, complicated transition period, and if you ignore that, your projections look, frankly, naive. And third, and this is the killer, they can't survive a stress test. The second the CFO asks, so what happens if adoption is 30% lower than you projected, and you don't have an answer, you don't have a business case. What you have is a very fragile hope.
James's case had all 3 of these problems. So what did he do? He went back to the drawing board. And what he built is this simple but incredibly powerful 4-layer framework that, honestly, anyone can use. This isn't about finding one magic number. Nope. It's about building 4 distinct layers that can each be examined on their own, creating a case that is tough, robust, and completely defensible.
And here's the first big insight, and it's a game changer. You don't start with the AI. You'd think you would, but you don't. You start with a meticulous, fully loaded accounting of your current state. Before you can even dream of showing what AI will deliver, you have to prove you know what your current process actually costs the business today.
And we're not just talking about salaries here, as you can see. A true baseline captures everything: cost, time, error rate, and risk. For James, a scheduling error wasn't just a fee to expedite shipping. It was actual damage to a customer relationship. That's a risk exposure. And documenting that, it changed the whole conversation from simple efficiency to risk reduction, which is a much, much more powerful language to speak in the boardroom.
Now, this is where most people start their business case, but it should always be the second layer. Think of it like a puzzle piece. Your pilot results are your credible evidence, but without the context of the full puzzle, your baseline, they're just a number floating in space. But with that baseline, the piece just clicks right into place, and now you have a real story. We moved from this specific state to this specific state, and here's what that actually means in the language of our business.
Okay, so we've got our baseline, we've got our pilot data, now we can project into the future. But this is where we make another crucial shift. Instead of presenting one single overcompetent number that just begs to be attacked, James built 3 scenarios. And this right here is what earned him the trust he needed from a CFO.
The psychology here is just so interesting. Instead of giving them a single number to poke holes in, James presented a range. You can see it here in the chart. A conservative case with lower adoption and a longer transition. A base case, and then an upside case with full adoption. And each scenario had its own assumptions, all stated right there, explicitly. The CFO's response totally shifted from, which of these do I even believe, to, this is the first AI business case I've seen that I can actually interrogate. That's a massive win.
And that brings us to the final and most often forgotten piece of this whole puzzle: governance. AI systems are not fire and forget.
Not even close. They require ongoing monitoring, review cadences, human oversight, recalibration. These are not zero-cost activities. So by including a governance cost line in the business case, James did two brilliant things. First, it made his net return number more conservative and, because of that, way more credible. And second, it positioned him as someone who had thought about the long-term reality, not just the shiny new deployment. That matters a lot to leaders who've been burned by IT projects with no budget for maintenance.
So, the case is built. It's on 4 solid layers. It's bulletproof. But it can still fail. How? Because it's delivered in the wrong language. Every room and every leader in that room speaks a different value language. James was presenting to a CEO, his COO, and a CFO. So what did he do? He built one case, but with 3 different entry points. For the CFO, it was a story of margin and risk-adjusted return. For the COO, it was all about capacity, cycle time, and scalability. And for the CEO, he framed it in terms of competitive positioning and retaining top talent. Same numbers, 3 completely different narratives, and the result? The case was approved right there, in that first meeting.
So when you really step back and look at what James actually did to get this thing approved, you'll see the core theme we keep coming back to: the human greater than AI advantage. The skills that actually got this initiative funded, they weren't technical at all. This right here is the human greater than AI advantage made real. Building a baseline, designing a system with governance, projecting value in ranges, and communicating in the language the business can actually act on. These are not AI skills, they are leadership skills just applied to AI. It's the ability to be the translator between what a technology can do and what the business actually needs.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a challenge. Take one of your own AI initiatives, one you're working on right now, and run it through this 4-layer framework. Do you have a clear baseline? Do you have solid pilot evidence? A scaled projection with ranges? And have you really accounted for the cost of governance? If you can't fill in all 4 of those layers clearly and confidently, well, you've just found where your credibility gap lives. And that's where you need to do the work, long before you ever walk into that room.